Some good stuff happened recently, Scott. It just regulators sort of conceding that, yeah, we may do a expedited approach in terms of if we need to actually have a vaccine that's more customized towards Omicron, we'll do that. That was probably good. I'd like you to comment on what you know about the sequences that were added and the similarity to the common cold, which is a coronavirus. It makes it more transmissible, but at the same time, it makes the symptoms milder potentially. Why do we think that? And is it, do we have any real evidence to think that, or we're just hopeful?
Yeah, I would be careful about over-interpreting that sequence data. I don't think you can just impute from what you see in the sequence what the clinical characteristics are going to be. I think more important is the clinical data on the ground, and unfortunately we're really challenged collecting that in the setting of a current crisis. I mean, the South Africans are busy delivering crisis levels of care, so as we saw in New York, it's very hard for busy clinicians in the setting of a crisis to both collect information and publish it and deal with the immediate patient care issues. And this is where the WHO, I think, could be doing much more on the ground to help assist in collecting that clinical information and disseminating it, analyzing it, so we can have some clinical insights. Now, that said, the doctors in South Africa are doing, very good work and putting out some clinical data. We had a report over the weekend from a hospital in the Tshwane district, which is a busy part of Pretoria that's hard hit by this new variant, or perceived to be hard hit by this new variant. That was somewhat encouraging. It showed that of 166 patients who were admitted to the hospital since this crisis began, they found 38 COVID-positive patients. Most were incidental findings, people who were there for obstetrical reasons or surgery and found to be COVID-positive but not symptomatic. Of the 9 patients with COVID pneumonia, most seemed to be stable, none were in critical care, and all had been unvaccinated. So there's some indication that the vaccines may be protective, and also that people who are getting sick aren't getting as sick. Now, the critical question is going to be, and this is the one we need to tease out and could be teasing out with better data collection by the international bodies, the critical question is going to be, are people getting less ill because they've previously been infected with Delta? We know there was a very high attack rate of Delta in that part of South Africa. Or is this an innately less virulent virus? We don't know the answer to that question. I think our assumption has to be that people are getting less ill because they've been previously exposed to COVID and therefore have residual cellular immunity. Their B cells, memory B cells, and T cells. So they're able to fight off the disease even if they're susceptible to the infection.
Let's try, it's a moving target. Let's try to anticipate what we should be concerned with. We had Thanksgiving, a lot of people. There's still a lot of unvaccinated individuals and some breakthrough. Is Delta, because it is a bad variant, really bad, more transmissible and can make people really sick, are we going to need to have our eye on Delta breakouts still, or do you think we should be worrying about the spread of this new variant?
Yeah, Omicron isn't here at any appreciable level. There's not widespread community transmission of this virus now at all. And so their absolute risk of contracting is exceedingly low in the United States. And we have good detection, so we would be picking it up. Delta's the immediate risk. And the tragic thing is there's a lot of people who are going to get infected with Delta even still. And they may find that that immunity that they've acquired through that Delta infection isn't going to be protective against Omicron. So, based on what we know now, we'll know more in a couple of weeks, but based on what we know now, the vaccines still appear to be protective against both Delta and this new variant. And so there's still a window for people to both get boosted and get vaccinated, and probably getting more people vaccinated, if this does end up spreading here, could become much more important. I worry about states that have low vaccination rates, high Delta exposure, and are confident right now, and perhaps overconfident because their prevalence has declined. And that describes a lot of states in the South right now, which I think could be vulnerable to Omicron because they're relying a lot on Delta immunity. They've seen prevalence really collapse because of that Delta immunity, because they've had such a big wave of infection. But Omicron seems to pierce that. We have clear evidence now that the people who are getting infected in South Africa are people who are getting reinfected after a Delta infection. So far, we haven't seen analytical work on the vaccines. That should be coming. So we'll have a better sense how well 2 doses of vaccine, which is largely what's been used in this market, is protecting against this new variant. And then we're going to have to look at the neutralization data and see if there's a delta between the 3 doses and the 2 doses. I suspect there will be, and that the 3 doses is going to provide more robust protection against this.